Our guest speaker is Adam Carnow from Esri, and he will be talking about alignment of GIS to your business, what it is, why it's important, and how to do it. If you have questions, please submit them to the chat, and Adam will answer your questions at the end of his talk. So thank you, and now please welcome Adam Carnow.
Thanks very much, Rika. Always happy to participate and support any Shrug event out there. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a Floridian at heart, even though I'm talking to you from Charlotte, North Carolina. Grew up in Florida, married there, my kids were born there. It's my second home, and I love Shrug events, being there in person. So hopefully I'll be able to get back there another time. And if, Rika, if you could make me a presenter, I will start to share my slides. Hang on 1 second, let me make sure I am sharing the right screen. Yeah. All right, can you see that, Rika?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. All right, well, I'm here to talk to you about the alignment of GIS to your business. And this is really a crucial thing that I think should be the center focus of any GIS department. The alignment of GIS to your business is a critical thing because it makes sure that you're working on the things that the people at the top believe are most important. And by doing so, you will gain their executive sponsorship, which will give you access to additional resources and make your work more pertinent and help the organization do what it needs to do. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, let's just review the term align. I want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So it's a verb to bring into line, to array on the side of or against a party or cause. The intransitive verb is to get or fall into line, to be in or come into precise alignment or correct relative position. If you look at some synonyms for align or aligned, they are coordinated, unified, united, collaborating, cooperating, teamwork, and in harmony. But I think if you look at the perspective of an executive that runs an organization, you know, I think really down deep, they hope that everybody in the organization is working together towards a common goal. Because every organization has explicit business goals. And in order to achieve them, you want to make sure that everybody's on the same page and we're all working together to do that. And that's what I'm talking about with this alignment of GIS to the business, is to make sure that you are working towards that common goal. So now let's talk about what is alignment to your business and why is it important. The easiest way to describe this is with these 4 circles. So the first thing you want to do is look at the goals of your business. So every organization has some goals. They're usually stated in, you know, they'll usually have a mission and a vision, and then maybe they have a strategic plan. But every organization has some sort of goal that they're working towards, usually goals, objectives, policies. Sometimes if they're into performance management, they've got KPIs or key performance indicators. Whatever those are, you need to be very familiar with what those business goals are for your organization. And those, again, are the things that the people at the top are trying to achieve. Once you know what those goals are, what you want to do is you want to seek out the people at the top of your organization that are in charge of meeting those goals. And what you want to do is just ask them what kind of challenges they're experiencing that are making it hard for them to reach their goals. And most executives will be very happy to talk to you about this because it's what's driving them crazy. So you need to understand what is preventing them from meeting their goals. And if you do that and then come back with some GIS solutions that help mitigate those challenges so that it's easier for them to achieve their goals, you then will get business value of GIS. So the people at the top that are in charge of meeting those goals, they will hopefully achieve their goals because of your help, and then therefore they will understand the business value of GIS. So they're going to personally experience the benefit of GIS. And this will give you executive sponsorship, give you more resources, make your work more important, and actually help change the organization. So this alignment is critical to being you know, the maximum success that you can be in your organization with the technology. So let's see what this looks like in real life. So I'm going to tell us a story of a successful customer of Esri's here in North Carolina. So I'm going to talk to you about Cabarrus County. They're within that yellow circle there. So I'm in Mecklenburg County, which is the county to the southwest of Cabarrus. That's where Charlotte is. And Cabarrus is just to the northeast. It's a bedroom community for Charlotte. It's part of the Charlotte MSA, but they are trying to get rid of that bedroom community mentality and image, and they've actually got a lot going on. Their population is about 215,000 people, and they're really an excellent example of alignment of GIS to the business, and they're very, very successful. So let's look a little bit closer at Cabarrus County. Here's their website, and as I was doing some research on this, I was poking around their website, and I actually stumbled upon this, which is really interesting, and that is that Cabarrus County is credited with being one of the first counties in the country to provide GIS mapping via the internet. And so what this tells me is that they have a long history of innovation. So they are not one of the agencies that says, we're fine with the way we have always done it and we're good with paper and pen. They have an innovation culture. So they're always wanting to be ahead of the rest and, strike new ground. And that's a great thing to have. And that's very hard to build, like, that culture. And so it's important, and it's interesting to see that that culture has stayed around for a long time, because obviously, mapping by the internet happened a long time ago, and they're still being innovative today, which we'll learn a little bit more about as I tell you some more about Cabarrus County. What I want to show to you as part of that innovation culture is that they are consistently ranked, in the top 10 counties in the country as far as IT innovation. And there's the Center for Digital Government ranks counties based on categories of population every year. And they've been in the top 10 for the last 9 years. And they've won 8 NACO, which is the National Association of Counties. They won 8 NACO Achievement Awards this year in 2021 alone. They've also won 4 in 2020, and they've won additional awards in 2021 from other organizations. And so in 19, 20, and 21, they were at the very top of the Digital County Survey. And I want to show you the write-up for this year for why they won in their population category. So you can see the description from Government Technology Magazine as to why Cabarrus County won that designation again here in 2021. And if you look closely, you will see that one of the main reasons they are winning these awards and being so effective is because of alignment. So you can see the word align or alignment is used 3 times in that short little paragraph. And so they're a great example to look to see how to do this and the results of that. But before we get started, I want to talk about the team at Cabarrus County. And a lot of us, I think, have heard this quote before: teamwork makes the dream work. But actually, I had never heard the second part of this quote until I researched it. And that says that, but a vision becomes a nightmare when the leader has a big dream and a bad team. So not one person can accomplish something as impressive as being a top county in IT and GIS. It does take a effective team, again, aligned, that's all working together towards a common goal. And now Esri has worked with customers across the globe in every industry for years, for decades, actually, and making them successful with our technology. And one of the best practices we've learned about being most effective with GIS in an organization is that you've got to have an effective team, and it takes teamwork. And that team consists of these 3 roles. First is the technical leadership. You've got to have your technical leadership, your IT director, your CIO on board. They need to understand the value of GIS. They need to help open doors and find resources to implement GIS. They're going to be providing the IT infrastructure that GIS is going to work on. So they need to be totally on your side and a big supporter of the work that you're doing. Second of all, you need executive sponsor, and actually I should put a parentheses S on the end of that, because executive sponsorship is probably one of the most critical factors of being successful with GIS in an organization like a county. And you need as many of them as possible, because you don't want to hitch your wagon to just one horse, because if that horse leaves the organization, you're back to ground zero. So executive sponsors are ones that understand the benefits and potential of GIS. They help get you resources, they help open doors, they help introduce you to people, they help lobby on your behalf, etc. So executive sponsorship is a critical piece of a successful GIS, and you should constantly be cultivating uh, a garden of executive sponsors across your organization. And then lastly, but certainly not least, is the champion, and that is the person that's in, their job full time is to make GIS successful at the organization. So that might be your role in your organization. So these three roles are critical on the team, and you've got to assemble them and make sure they're all aligned as well. So let's take a look at the team at Cabarrus County. Let's start with Debbie Brannon. Debbie is the area manager of innovation. She is one of the executive sponsors of GIS at the county. She's the driving force behind all those awards and continuing that innovative culture. She's really an amazing person. Again, a big supporter of GIS, and she's just makes things happen. And so she's a really, really valuable asset to the work that they're doing at Cabarrus County. Next is the technical leadership, and that would be Todd Shanley, who is the CIO at Cabarrus County. Todd has won many awards individually as well. In 2020, he was named one of the top 25 doers, dreamers, and drivers. And he was also a Golden Gov County Executive of the Year. So Todd has, similar to the awards that Debbie and the county have won, he's following that up as well. And Todd is really a huge asset for multiple reasons. Number one, he's a huge fan of GIS. And why is that? Well, Todd started over 20 years ago at the county as a GIS intern. So Todd is a GIS practitioner. And so to have a CIO that came out of the GIS industry is just a huge asset because they, innately understand the benefits and value of GIS in the organization. So you don't have to, educate them and get them all fired up about it. And lastly, but certainly not least, is Joe Battinelli. He is the GIS champion at Cabarrus County. Joe's a great person, and what I'd like to do is point out a few things here. First of all, is to look at Joe's title. He is the Business and Location Innovative Services Supervisor. In effect, he's the GIS manager, but look at that title. That doesn't say GIS in it, and it states a statement that he's there to provide innovative services around business and location. So I think this is a key point for those of you that know me and have read or heard my content before. I really think that rebranding our GIS departments and our titles to drop the term GIS is a really effective way to get people to understand the true value you can deliver. Because those that usually hear the term GIS think, oh, those are the people that make maps. And while map making is a valuable skill and maps are valuable, we can do a whole heck of a lot more and should be doing a whole heck of a lot more with enterprise GIS than just making maps. So the fact that Joe has rebranded his team and his function in the organization to more align with what they're doing, I think is a really good indicator of where their head is. Also, when I talked to Joe when I was putting this together, he wanted to mention a few things. Number one, he just hired a brand new GIS analyst, and that person's job full time is to do nothing but build relationships with the departments and help identify opportunities for GIS projects. That's all that person does. They go out into the organization, they may build relationships with each department, they learn their business, and then they come back with new opportunities to implement GIS. That's usually called an IT business analyst. And I think that every single GIS department should have one of those people, because you want to be constantly feeding the department with opportunities throughout the organization to expand your impact. Also, he has two of his staffers that are getting their master's degree in GIS, and they're doing their capstone projects on city projects within the county. And that brings mutual benefits. It helps the cities out by providing them some free GIS services. It helps the staffers out by getting their master's degree, and it increases the relationship between the counties and the cities. So I think that that's just another great thing and great best practice that they're doing there. All right, so now that we know the people involved at Cabarrus County and the story there, let's talk about how do you align your GIS to your business. Well, again, it's those four circles. We've got to learn the goals, the challenges, provide business-driven GIS solutions, and then that will give us business value of GIS and achieve that alignment. So let's talk about the first one, which is the business goals. So again, you want to look at the goals of your organization. So this is the Cabarrus County website. This is their strategic plan for the entire county, not just the GIS department. It has their mission and their vision, and then it has a series of goals and objectives, and they're broken out by category. These are under the healthy and safe community category. Next category is culture and recreation. Then you see sustainable growth and development, a thriving economy, and then transparent and accountable government. Now, none of these are probably unique to Cabarrus County. I mean, most counties and cities and government organizations have similar kinds of goals, but it's again critical that we know exactly what those goals are, objectives, etc., and then we want to talk to the people in charge of meeting those goals so we can understand the challenges, and that's that next step. So how did we do that at Cabarrus County? Here's a photo of me presenting to all of the leadership at the county a while back. And the idea here is that Esri worked very closely with the county to come in and do what we call a discovery workshop, where we come in, meet with every single department, learn their business, learn their goals and their challenges, and then we can come back with recommendations on how best to apply the technology to mitigate those challenges and meet those goals. So what we wanted to do is we knew that as we were setting up these meetings to meet with the staff of every department, that the heads of that department would wonder, what is this? Why is this vendor coming in here? And why do they want to meet with my people and take them away from their busy days? I don't understand this. So what we wanted to do is proactively engage them ahead of time to get them to understand the process, why we were coming in to do this, and what the potential was here. And so I presented to them and talked to them about the potential, the benefits of GIS and how we're here to help them get their job done and mitigate those challenges so that they can achieve their goals. And it was really an effective meeting, because I had a couple of directors come up to me afterwards and they turned to Joe and they said, look, I know you've got an hour set aside for our meeting with our department, but I'd really like you to double that, because after this presentation, my mind the wheels in my head are spinning, and I've come up with, I think, a lot of more ideas about how we can utilize this technology to help our department. So they were all fired up, and they made sure that their staff were engaged when we had the meetings and were paying attention and actively participating. And so it really pushed and made those meetings much more effective. So next, after we learned the challenges, is now how do we find some business-driven GIS solutions to mitigate those challenges? So the first thing you want to do is you don't want to start off with custom coding, because you want a sustainable GIS. So one of the best practices is to prioritize on commercial off-the-shelf configurable solutions. And that means you should be very familiar with our ArcGIS solutions site and all of the solutions within it. There are over 110 solutions. These are the largest collection of SaaS GIS solutions in the world. They're free, they're open source, they're supported, they're constantly updated. And then as of last year, you can now deploy a lot of these in the cloud via ArcGIS Online with no need for any on-premises software or hardware, and no need for any GIS experience to simply configure and deploy them. They have a meetup at meetup.com. You can join that to stay up to date on the latest developments of these solutions. They also have a newsletter you can sign up for. So think of this as your app store, where we go and we find apps that meet the needs. And these apps are developed with customers and real world situations, real world data and workflows. So it's not like Esri just makes these up in the back room. We actually work with customers and develop these to fix real world problems. So think of this as a free app store. You can come up here very quickly, deploy these without writing any code. And then as we deploy solutions, you want to think beyond just hardware and software. We want to make sure we have the skills needed to support these solutions and to implement them as well. So you always want to make sure you're looking at your skill set and the skill set of your end users to see if they need any training. And we want to bake training into this. We don't just want to throw stuff out there without providing any training. And then, none of the best GIS departments out there do everything themselves and, can do it all themselves and know it all. Everybody needs and gets help. So get help. Esri has consulting services we can help and provide. We help the county here. We also have a whole bunch of partners out there. We work well with partners. It isn't an either or thing. Like you can work with Esri or a partner. You can work with both of us as well. We work very well with our partners. If you need help finding a partner, reach out to your Esri account team and they can help you find the best partner for the situation. And then our partners also have the ArcGIS marketplace where they show their wares and their services and products, et cetera, where you can see what kinds of solutions that they might be able to bring to bear as well. So let's see what this looks like once Cabarrus has deployed some solutions. So this is a screenshot of their one of their GIS application galleries. This shows many different applications that they deployed to the public. But when I talked to Joe, he wanted me to highlight a few of them. First of all, this one here, which is the Cabarrus County Emergency Rental Assistance Program. So this is tied to government funding, to help the economy and help the housing side of things, having to deal with what's going on with the pandemic. So if people cannot meet their rent anymore because maybe they've lost their job, then they can come in here and apply for emergency rental assistance to get money to help pay their rent. So this is obviously a hugely important program to the county and to the people at the top. And while this is not a GIS application, it consumes and utilizes an enterprise IT service from GIS, and that is the address validation service. So if someone wants to apply for emergency rental assistance, they come in here and they put their address in, and then this service coming out of the enterprise GIS figures out whether or not they are within Cabarrus County, and if they are, it validates it and they can move on through the process. So not a GIS application, but GIS is embedded in it in a very important way to support this very important program that's going to be distributing over $10 million to residents of Cabarrus County. Another critical enterprise application that GIS supports, this one does have a GIS piece to it that you can view and use. This is their foreclosure web application. So obviously foreclosures are an important thing to monitor and be aware of, and to help mitigate the housing and real estate environment in the county. So county's always very concerned. Where are the foreclosures? How many are there? Are they going up? Are they going down? Can we get them back into the market, et cetera? So again, another very important piece to the puzzle here in the county, and GIS is right there supporting it. They've also deployed some various coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic solutions, including our impact planning report that shows the impact that the pandemic is having on the county, across the county in many different ways. Here's another application. This application is showing Narcan deployment in a density heat map over time. Narcan is administered usually by an EMT in response to an opioid overdose. And so what this is showing is the locations of Narcan deployment, which is indicating where they've got a problem with opioid addiction. This is a complex problem, and you definitely need to see where it's happening and when it's happening across the county, so you can focus on mitigating that challenge. And it's very complex. What I think this also shows us is that a lot of us have data with a timestamp on it, but I think a lot of times we just show all of it, and it's usually, if you're working on a problem like this that changes over time, I'm not so interested in where it was happening 3 years ago, but where is it happening last week, last month, this year, so that we can focus our resources on it right now. So I think it's a good lesson that for those of us that have data with timestamps, we should be deploying more of these time series interactive web applications so that people can scroll through time and actually see where the problem is changing over time. Here's another really interesting application. It's a Cabarrus County biodiversity dashboard. So the county is very concerned and interested in preserving the natural resources in the county. And so this shows a heat map and an interactive dashboard of all of the observations of plant and animal species of concern across the county. And so you can interactively work with this dashboard and discover different species and see where they occur across the county, et cetera. So I've never I don't think I've ever seen a biodiversity dashboard like this at the local government level. I think it's really interesting. So let's move on here now. So what I just showed you is we know the goals of Cabarrus County. We then met with each of the departments to learn their challenges, and then we deployed some business-driven GIS solutions, and therefore we've achieved business value of GIS. We've got alignment, we've got executive sponsorship, and things are good. But I'd like to also tell a quick story about another really successful organization that did the same thing. And this is Bonneville, County, Idaho. They are in the southeast part of Idaho. The county seat is Idaho Falls, and the county population is about 115,000, so a lot smaller than Cabarrus County. But back in 2015, they had a single GIS professional working at the county. And Bonneville County is very susceptible each year to wildfires. And so the GIS professional there, she knew that obviously this is one of the top priorities of the county is mitigating the challenge of fighting these wildfires each year. And back in 2015, the county responded with manual paper-based workflows. So she reached out to Esri and got some help, and we worked with her to deploy some of our ArcGIS COTS solutions, commercial off-the-shelf configurable solutions for wildfire response. And they deployed those. And then sure enough, unfortunately, they got hit with wildfires. But the response was totally revolutionized based on the use of the technology. They were much more responsive, much more efficient, and were able to provide a much better response to the event than they ever had in the past. So this great, success story, along with some other really well-placed solutions, allowed her to hire 5 additional full-time GIS professionals. So that is really unbelievable, because if you think about, we all know how hard it is to get a brand new full-time employee position approved by executives. It's just a really staggering thing to try to accomplish. So the fact that they were able to do that, not with just one more professional, but 5 more. So she grew her department from 1 to 6 in just a few years. It shows you that this is not a very big organization, but my goodness, if you provide business value, you will get the resources. People will find the resources to make it happen if they see value in it. So this is just a really amazing story, I think, that really shows the importance of this alignment and executive sponsorship and additional resources. Okay, so another thing I want to talk to you about now is the solution map. So if you're going to go through this process of talking about the goals and challenges and then providing GIS solutions, you're going to be presenting to executives asking for their support of a project to implement technology to help mitigate those challenges so they can meet their goals. And I've seen in the past that a lot of GIS professionals have or sometimes have difficulty in being effective presenting to an executive and getting their support for GIS project. So I wanted to share with you a tool that we at Esri here use called the solution map. And when presenting to an executive, it's really critical that you do it in a specific way. They don't usually have a lot of time. They usually are not interested in technology. They want to get to the bottom line. You don't have, or you should never use technology jargon that they don't understand. You want to make it plain and simple. And so we use this technique called a solution map. And you should be able to present your project in just these 2 slides that I'm going to show you. So the first slide is going to deal with the problem. And we want to simply state the problem. And so I'm going to use a real problem statement. This is from a few years ago. And that is that the Federal Highway Administration made a mandate that said that public agencies must establish and implement a method to maintain traffic sign retroreflectivity. What that meant was the Federal Highway Administration said, if you're a public agency in charge of traffic signs, you have to make sure that they maintain a certain amount of reflectivity so that they're visible at night. Well, what is the cause of this problem? Well, the cause of this problem is that the nighttime crash rate is 3 times the daytime crash rate. So if we improve the sign visibility, it's going to help everybody. And what is the negative business impact? Well, if we fail to adhere to the federal mandate and standards, we would get, over time, as signs wear out due to weather, we would get reduced sign visibility, which would lead to increase in crashes, which leads to increased liability, because if a sign is not visible, someone gets in an accident, they certainly could sue the county because they could not see the sign. So if you drop a term like increased liability in front of an executive, you're going to get their attention, they're going to put their phone down, and they're going to start to listen up because they don't want to hear that term. So our first slide is problem, and we're just got 3 boxes to talk about. What's the problem statement, the cause of the problem, and the negative business impact. Our second slide is all about the solution. So how do we solve the problem? We're going to implement a GIS-based sign inventory and management system. We're going to follow best practices, which means, again, we're not going to write custom code. We're going to configure first and look for solutions out there off the shelf, either from Esri or the partners. And what would be the positive business outcome? Well, we would get full compliance with the Federal Highway Administration mandate. We would get improved sign visibility, which would reduce crashes and lead to limited liability, a term that they love to hear. But then along with that, we're going to get other benefits. So we're going to get increased efficiencies, because maybe when the crews go out there to test the signs or replace the signs, we're going to most efficiently route them using the GIS, so they get more done in their day. We're going to make better decisions because we're going to be able to prioritize which signs to replace first based on which ones are the worst off as far as reflectivity. And maybe we've also got the ability, now that we know what signs are out there and which ones need to be replaced, we can now order the supplies ahead of time. So we've got the right supplies in the shop ready to go to replace them. So the whole process will become more efficient. And then lastly, you want to talk about schedule and cost. Simplify your schedule. And we want to make sure that our cost includes everything we need. A TCO at the end there, you see total cost of ownership. You don't want to just have the software and the hardware and maybe some consulting. You also want to think about training. Again, internal training that's needed to deploy these solutions, or maybe for the end users. We want to have some change management. Organizational change management is a big part of getting technology adopted successfully. You can have the best app in the world and throw it out there. If nobody uses it or adopts it, it doesn't provide any value. And people are resistant to change and usually don't want to learn something new or pick up a new piece of technology. And surveys show that if you have change management, it helps your technology adoption success rate go up by over 6 times. So change management is a big piece of being successful with technology adoption. And again, you're probably going to need some external assistance. So you don't want to pitch a number and then have to come back and ask for more money. So you want to make sure this one number covers it all. So that's it. That's a solution map. 2 slides, one on the problem, one on the solution, 6 pieces of information. You should be able to do that in 10, 15 minutes, deal with questions, and then move on. So a great example, I think, of how to deal with an executive when you're trying to get their sponsorship for a project. All right, so let's wrap this up. So lastly, I'm going to talk about some resources available to help you with this alignment. First of all is a webinar I recently did called Communicating the Value of GIS in Your Organization, How to Measure Return on Investment. What this goes into is some best practices on how to document the benefits you provide to your organization when you complete a project. And then you've got to actually publicize that. You've got to be your own bullhorn to get the message out there, because if you're providing a lot of value but nobody knows about it, it's not going to result in getting additional resources and the recognition that you deserve. So you've got to proactively, every time you do a project, document the impact that's having and then publicize that out. And so this presentation will help you understand the best practices around how to best do that with using some real world examples. This alignment is all part of a geospatial strategy. Most organizations that have GIS do not have a strategy. You've got to have a strategy. And so a part of getting started on that is to go to this URL. If you don't have a strategy, download this short document here called the Approach to Maximizing Impact. Get with your Esri account team and we can help get you started on getting a strategy in place, because that's one of the key first things you've got to do to be successful and get this alignment done in your organization. Also, there's this incredibly great book from Matt Lewin up at Esri Canada called Geospatial Strategy Essentials for Managers. It takes all of the content that Matt is constantly putting out there and puts it in a book form, and it's dealing all with this strategy business side of GIS, and it's really a great resource. I heartily suggest you download the free ebook here. Also, if you work for a government agency, I would heartily suggest this website and companion book called Smarter Government from Martin O'Malley. He's the former governor of Maryland and mayor of Baltimore. He's one of the best examples of a senior government executive that understands the value of GIS and how it can align and help mitigate the challenges that public agencies deal with. So the book is really well done. It's got some great case studies and examples in there. It's written as best an executive can use it to understand. So I would buy copies of this book as Christmas presents or holiday presents for your executives and give them out, and it will help them understand the value that spatial technology can bring to help them achieve their goals. And then a similar website is this Data Smart City Solutions website that comes to us from the Harvard Kennedy School Ash Center for Democratic Governance and Innovation. It's run by Stephen Goldsmith, who was the vice mayor of New York City and held other executive positions around the country. It's similar to that last one I showed you, but it's constantly evolving best practices, case studies, videos, podcasts, etc. It's a great place to go to learn best practices and see some of the latest success stories from around the country on how to be a smarter government agency with data and analytics. And lastly, I want to point you out to some peers to follow that produce a lot of content in this strategy business side of GIS. First of all is Nathan Hazelwood. He's down in New Zealand. Matt Lewin, I already mentioned Matt up in Esri, Canada. And then Paul Synott, who is at Esri, Ireland. And I'm not telling you about these people because they all work for Esri distributors. I'm telling you because I think these people are the best people in our community that are publishing content on the strategy business side of GIS. And so I think you should connect with these folks on LinkedIn or follow them on Twitter or wherever else you can find them. They're really putting out amazing content that can help you in this area. All right, so let's wrap this up and get on to some questions. Again, it's all about these 4 circles: learning the goals, learning the challenges, providing business-driven GIS solutions, and then that would equate to business value of GIS. That will raise your importance in the organization. You'll get access to more resources. You'll be aligned. You'll be actually changing the organization for the better. And that's really what leaders do, and that's really what our job is. Our job is to deploy technology that digitally transform the organization and makes it better. And especially in times like the pandemic, you want to stand up when things are bad and say, here, I've got some technology that can help this organization emerge on the other side of the pandemic in even a better state than they were beforehand. That's where you'll really build a career and help yourself personally and professionally. And I know this is difficult. I know it's difficult to switch your mindset from tech and data all day to talking to executives and trying to mitigate challenges and raising your level of impact. But I want to channel my best Ted Lasso here and use this great quote from the show, and that is, taking on a challenge is a lot like riding a horse. If you're comfortable while you're doing it, you're probably doing it wrong. So yes, it's going to take you outside your comfort zone, but this is why you're really there. And again, if you want to maximize the impact and build a really successful career, these are the things that you do: is use the technology to make a big difference in the organization and the community. The last thing I'll leave you with is that, that's the bottom line. Our job is to be agents of change. And, I don't want this to be just another presentation that you sit through. I want this to impact you and make you change the way you're working with GIS in your organization every day. So please learn from the resources I've provided you. Please reach out to me, connect with me. I'd love to help you out. I'd love to learn about your challenges or learn about your successes so I can share that with the community as well. You can just email me. I'm available on Twitter at Spatial Ace. I'm also accessible on LinkedIn and the Esri community. So that's all I have, and I will provide these slides in a digital form that are all hyperlinked to everything that I showed you, so it'll make it easier for you to find those resources. But with that, I'll kick it back to Rika, and we can look at some questions.
Awesome. Adam, thank you so much. That was fantastic. I'm glad you provided your email and any other contact information, and also being able to provide your slides. So I love the
Sure.
Ted Lasso comment, but love that show. So Ned Cake, He wanted to add, he wanted to say additional part of solution could be how the solution will integrate with your existing work order management system, such as CityWorks, Acela, Infor, Do Solutions, and they're all Esri partners. So thank you, Ned.
Yeah, great comment, Ned. And you know that's a great point in that always look for opportunities to integrate with other enterprise IT business systems, because when you do so, it's not just taking GIS one system and taking enterprise asset management another system. 1 + 1 = 2. When you integrate and bring the power of those two together, it's going to be 1 + 1 = 3, 4, or 5. The impact would be much more major on the organization. And so you talk about finding big wins. Anytime you can integrate successfully with another enterprise IT business system, you're going to bring big benefits to the organization. So thanks to Ned for pointing that out. Was there anything else?
Sorry, a question I'd like to add, on my part is like, I'm just curious, how did you get started in GIS? And then what led you into the enterprise GIS side?
So I got into GIS in graduate school. So I was in the Urban and Regional Planning School at University of Florida, and they have the GeoPlan Center there, and I got introduced to GIS there, and that ignited the passion in me for GIS. And after that, graduated, got a job as a GIS consultant, and have been doing it 25+ years later. So
Wow. Great.
yeah, it's been fun.
And we have a couple of minutes. Does anyone have anything to add to today's talk?
Nothing else, huh?
I don't think so. So I think we'll just leave it with that.
Okey-doke.
Okay, again, Adam's going to provide the slides. He has contact information. Please contact him. And this recording will be available on the Shrug website, YouTube video or YouTube channel. And that's it. So enjoy the rest of your conference. And thank you, Adam, for being here with us.
Thanks a lot for the opportunity to support the great community and event you guys have with Shrug. Happy to.